Mm. Mm. Noodles are on point. Hello foodies, good morning from Malaysia. I'm Wei Lun.
I'm Quet.
Welcome to the Gourmet Plate. Today, we are going to have a dish that originates from Penang, prawns bathed in a bowl of spicy and savory broth, along with springy yellow noodles and rice vermicelli, called prawn noodles, or what the Penang peeps will call Hokkien Mee. And we are going to find the best in Kuala Lumpur. We have tried probably all the popular prawn noodle spots in Klang Valley, and there are now two contenders for the prawn noodle champion. One is called Ike, which operates out of a food truck, whereas the other is called Chun Prawn Noodle House. And incidentally, they are situated within the same locality of Sea Park, some 15 kilometers away from the city centre of Kuala Lumpur, and they are operating just one residential neighbourhood away from one another. Alright, that's enough blabbering, let's slurp some noodles. Hey guys, we are now at Chun Prawn Noodle House, and they used to be situated in a kopitiam right at the end of the street. I think in the past few years they moved out into a shop of their own and they set up shop here. And the funny thing is, if you just look behind me, over here, they just moved the entire hawker stall into the shop and they started selling noodles out of this hawker stall. So right, we're going to start ordering our noodles now. Okay guys, so they have got this menu over here and you can order either prawn noodle or lor mee. And we're going to just go for the prawn noodle today. Over here is an order sheet. I've already placed my order number. They also have some other dishes for you to order, so you can add on stuff. I think we're going to add on some big prawns and some pork ribs. Ah, interesting. They also got this homemade lobak set. It's a very well-known Penang dish as well. Gotta get one of those. Alright guys, the orders have been placed. Let us wait for the prawn noodles. Alright guys, our orders are here. So we got over here an addition of pork ribs with some huge prawns, our prawn noodle, as well as what we call ngor hiang. And over here, this pork roll here is called lobak. So let us very quickly start with the prawn noodles. It smells pretty good. I can really smell the prawniness and that spice in that broth. Let's try the broth first. Guys, oh, that broth. The first thing that hits you, the sea of prawniness, that prawns umami flavor engulfs you. And then that spicy note hits you at the back of the throat and it tickles it just a nice touch to give you that nice kick. And there's this interesting sweet undertone that goes with this broth. And this is what I rarely find in prawn noodles in Malaysia. Chun prawn noodle, wow, the broth is on another level. Oh, that's very good flavor layering. This is so addictive. Alright, let's quickly try the noodles now. Noodles are on point. Bouncy, springy, well cooked, very al dente, and surprisingly, even the vermicelli is not overcooked. You know, generally in Malaysia, when we eat prawn noodles, they tend to overcook the noodles quite a bit. But this, Ridiculously on point. Let's have a bit of the kangkong, which I believe is called water spinach. Natural flavor, crunchy. It adds a nice texture to this dish. Oh, the noodles are so slurpable, guys. Insane. As you can see, this is the basic generic prawn noodle, and their prawns are pretty large size. Prawny, bouncy, pretty fresh. And guys, that added fried shallots, it elevates the fragrance of this dish. My god, that broth. But then guys, they do give you this sambal that always goes with prawn noodles, and generally people just pour the sambal in, but I know this Chun's prawn noodle, it really has that amazing flavor that I don't really feel like I want to add the sambal in, but for science, let's just add it in. Into the broth, stir it up. Gives it a thicker, I will guess spicier and more murky consistency. Let us try this. Oh, it changes the tone a little bit. Originally, it was like a nice balance of sweet, savory, spicy, and prawny. Now it's more towards a bit more savory and less sweet, but you could still definitely taste the sweetness. I would say use this sambal as a neutralizer for the sweetness. If you don't like it to be too sweet, just add in a bit more of the sambal. But for me, I think one dollop of sambal is enough. Oh, this broth is good. This broth is good. Alright, let us have their egg. What? My god, they flipped the egg around and I thought it was one whole egg, but it's actually just half an egg. But I think it's fine lah. Yeah, let's go. Wow, guys, they're really on fire today. It's fresh. There's a creaminess in the yolk, which is again rare in a prawn noodle. Let's quickly move on to the add-ons, the pork ribs and the prawn. So this whole bowl here is about 18 bucks. Yeah, I think 3 pieces of prawns. The prawns are really huge compared to what you get from the basic one. You see, this is a really huge piece of prawn. And the pork ribs, I think they're about 4 to 5 pieces. Pretty nice looking, I would say. They look to be super tender. And that broth, you can really guess the flavor of this. But actually, I'm quite curious. Let's try this broth instead. See if there's any difference compared to the noodle one. There is some difference. This is not as nice in a way. It doesn't have that much of a sweetness. It's more savory and a bit salty. Yeah, it's definitely different. It's a little bit more salty. But let's have that pork rib. Moderately tender, juicy, very flavorful. It has absorbed the savouriness and the sweetness and the prawniness of the broth. And I can see most of them here. Wow, they are mainly like, I would say 80% meat and maybe 10 to 20% bone. And that is impressive. I mean, for 18 bucks, I think it's quite worth it. Let's take the prawn now. Again, very bouncy. A little bit of that prawny sweetness. I think the one in the original bowl is slightly sweeter. I think probably it has touched more of the broth. This one because there's a shell on, so sweetness is not as obvious, but it does taste naturally sweet though. My god. Even after going through for quite a while, the noodles are still quite springy. They've only softened a little bit. This is impressive. Well done! Done with the noodles. We're gonna move on to this split here, Kong Ngo Hiang. And it's very widely available in Singapore, Malaysia, and I believe Indonesia as well. When I saw this on the menu, I just had to order it. Because this is also one of the very recognizable Penang dishes. They're mainly recognized for these 2 rolls of deep fried stuff here. This is what we call Penang Lobak. So what is Penang Lobak? Penang Lobak is basically 5 spiced marinated pork rolled in a beancurd skin and then deep fried. So it's super fragrant, oily and delicious. Oh, this is going to be super tasty. I can already smell the deep fried fragrance. The moment you take a bite, that 5-spice fragrance, it explodes in your mouth. The meat within, tender, fatty. This is a really very decent ngoh hiang. The texture though, it's not crispy. I think it's all screwed up there. Generally they have a little bit of crispiness, but this is mainly soft. But that's still okay, because the flavors are really impressive. Generally in ngoh hiang, what they give you is a chili sauce, and this is generally like their homemade spicy sweet sauce. So let's try this first. Look at that nice gooey consistency. Oh. Yeah, the sauce is fine. Really sweet. The spiciness comes a bit late. So I prefer it to have a clearer spicy tone. What about the chili? Chili is surprisingly not spicy. Let's try some of that deep fried bean curd. Dip it in the chili. Maybe a bit of this. It's okay. Now this is the century egg. In our previous food adventure, we had this with congee. And in that video, we were not able to show you exactly how century egg looks like. So this is how it looks like. It's got a very nice translucent jelly-like egg white. And the yolk is, as we mentioned, where the flavor comes from. It's got a very nice pungent and fragrant smell to it. So let's try this. It's not as pungent as what we had in the last food adventure. It's more salty. Texture is fine. Creamy yolk, jelly-like texture for the egg white. But in terms of taste, I think it's not pungent enough. And let's have a piece of that pickled ginger as well. Ginger is slicey pickle. A bit of that spiciness and a very nice sweetness in it. Overall, this dish is pretty good. I would say if you crave for Penang food and you can't go to Penang, I would definitely order this. This is a pretty good lobak. In fact guys, I would say you can pick the choice of not ordering the whole set, just order the lobak. This is really good. Okay guys, so that's it for this particular spot. Gonna mop this up with Quack and then we'll bring you to the next one. So stay tuned! Hey guys, we are now right in front of Egg Prawn Noodle, and as you can see here, they are operating straight out of a food truck. And look at the amount of people just eating. All these tables are filled. We finally got our seats. So let us quickly go over and order, and we'll see what we got. Alright guys, our prawn noodle is here, and as you can see here, we got a little bit of a more upgraded version. It usually comes without eggs and pork ribs, so we added an egg and some pork ribs. Right, what I noticed here is that Ike, they give you the sambal with a spoon instead of a small plate, so I'm gonna have to take this entire bowl and drink to try the soup first without the sambal. Decent. Immediately you taste it's milder in a way compared to what we had earlier, but it's got that nice umami prawniness, mainly savouriness, not much of a sweetness. They do have a bit of that prawn sweetness, but not much. I think probably better if we add the sambal in. Mix it up a bit. Noodles are looking springy. Alright, let's try the broth again. Much better. Adds a little bit more body to the broth, but still surprisingly mild. Alright, let's have some of that noodles and vermicelli. A tad overcooked, a little soft, but still maintains a bit of bounciness. Vermicelli is quite bouncy, and Ike is very traditional. I can see that they actually added pork slices. I don't think Chun has it. Alright, some of that prawn. Prawny. Wow, juicy, sweet. Some of that water spinach. Fresh, naturally flavored. Not bad. But one main difference between Ike and Chun is that Chun is just way more robust and has way more body and depth to their broth. I mean, this is decent, very decent, but wow, it just pales significantly in comparison to what we had earlier. Alright, pork ribs here, smaller in size, but they're also significantly cheaper. So let's try it out. Wow, pork ribs are good. Tender, juicy, absorb that prawniness of the broth. Sweet, savory, nice pork ribs. Very nice. A bit of the egg. Yolk is creamy. Has a nice egginess that's quite rare for prawn noodles. And the broth, as it progresses, turns a little one-dimensional because it just doesn't have enough depth and body. That's about it. Gonna mop this up and we're gonna do a ranking for both places later. See you guys in a bit. Hey guys, we're actually in a mall now, so it's quite hot outside, so we decided to just drop by one of the largest malls in Klang Valley. It's called Meat Valley, and a bit tired with the savory stuff, so let's see what kind of sweet desserts we can find. Guys, it's so different from what we saw just now. This doesn't look very nice, huh?
But the shape looks like a pineapple.
Yeah, it looks more of like a pineapple to us. Oh, it's not bad. It's quite decent. Plating time! So, the food truck prawn noodle Ike. I would say decent broth, a tad light. You could taste the prawniness, the savouriness, the spiciness, just not in depth. I think the sambal does give it a little bit more body though. The noodles, I would say a tad overcooked, but still decently bouncy. Ingredients, fresh, naturally sweet. It does taste very much like a traditional Penang Hokkien mee, but due to their lack in depth in their broth, it does get a bit one-dimensional after a few sips. That said, I scores an okay on the gourmet plate, which means it is some pretty good quality prawn noodles. So, on the Chun prawn noodles. Flavors also very traditionally tasting.
Yeah, and they have this added sweetness in their broth.
Yes, and their sweetness, it adds this flavor layering. The broth has a lot of depth. Insane prawn umami-ness, that spiciness that tickles your throat, savouriness, and with this sweetness, it sort of reminds me of Singapore prawn noodles. Yeah, in a weird way, it's like if Singapore prawn noodles married Penang prawn noodles and they had a child, and that child inherited both the good traits of the parents. That is Chun prawn noodle.
Their noodle cooked mousy,
Yeah.
and the ingredient fresh.
And very naturally tasting. They have all these natural sweetness in the pork ribs and their prawns as well. Yeah. However, I do find that the sweetness in their broth, it could turn from a boon to a bane if it was not balanced properly. And in Chun's case, they have this inconsistency issue. And if the sweetness is way off balance, it could turn artificial tasting. Yeah. And that flavor profile will take a nosedive. Therefore, taking the consistency issue into account, Chun will score an okay on the gourmet plate. If we were to rate them solely on today's performance, they would have easily scored half a plate on the gourmet plate because today they are on fire! Everything is on point. It's like the stars have aligned. So with both of them scoring an okay on the gourmet plate, who is the prawn noodle champion? If we were to look at egg prawn noodle, I would say they are pretty consistent, but their broth really does lack that depth, and hence it lacks excitement. It's more of a really decent neighborhood prawn noodle spot. Whereas Chun, it brings that excitement to you. It's like it brings the party to you. When you go to Chun, your heart races, that flavor explosion. And if they do everything right and everything on point, it's like you're on jetpack and you just went and traveled around half the galaxy. That's the feeling you get from Chun. So for the gourmet plate, Chun will be our prawn noodle champion. So that concludes our food adventure for the week, as well as our review for these two amazing prawn noodle spots. Who is your prawn noodle champion? Let us know in the comments down below. Because we have visited a lot of the other prawn noodle spots as well, we will share the story highlights of these spots in our Instagram profile. We'll leave a link to our Instagram down below as well. Thanks very much for watching our video. If you like our food adventures, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell button. Till we eat again next week. Bye.